see if they said anything about the delay. Looks like the last update was 43 minutes ago and still on a delay. We'll give it just a couple minutes to let people roll in here, and then we'll get started. We're just talking about the delay that's currently in Omaha right now, so we'll cover that in a few minutes, but we'll just give it a few minutes to get rolling. Welcome to the Third and Central podcast, the only podcast dedicated solely to the University of Louisville baseball program. This is Matt Sefcovic, and as always, I'm joined by Terry Pennington from Inside Louisville Baseball, live from Omaha. Terry just escaped the monsoon, got back to his hotel to hop on with us. If you're not aware, the game currently in Omaha between LSU and UCLA is in a rain delay. I think they did finish the bottom of the third, so going to the top of the fourth is when the delay started. We'll talk about that here in just a few minutes. But Louisville got a big W on Father's Day over Arizona. We'll talk about that. We'll chat about the loss to Oregon State on Friday night. But nonetheless, Louisville is one of the final 6 teams standing in college baseball right now. So that's got to be a really good feeling for Coach Mack and his crew and Louisville fans in general. I think the excitement right now across social media and in the stadium, you can see it's as high as it's ever been around the baseball program. So we're going to chat about all that stuff. But Terry, before we jump into all that, you're out in Omaha. How's everything going out that way?
It's been an absolute blast, man. Obviously, I've been here before. I came in 19, but I'm just really enjoying this. I mean, it's a different one for me, right? Covering it instead of just going to games or whatever. But some of the behind the scenes things that you're able to see have been pretty neat. Been able to attend practice and things like that on the off days, and um, see the guys kind of downstairs before they do their media stuff, see them in the locker room, all these kind of things in the hallway. So, on the field for BP. I mean, it's been a blast these last 4 or 5 days or whatever it's been so far, and we're just looking to keep it rolling if we can here. See if they can hold on for a few more W's and extend this stay as long as possible.
I know we talked about some of the stuff before you went out there, the little fan fest thing that they do. And have you got to experience any of that since you've been there? You've been more focused on, yeah. How's that been?
Oh, so fun. I love going over there. Like, you know, um, first off, I mean, there are just so many things. You want you see things and you want the things. You know what I'm saying? Like, here, take my money. Here, take my money. There's a lot of things that are definitely not for me. There's a lot of like there's bats, there's gloves, there's booze for all these different things that make jerseys. And then there's a lot of stuff for kids, right? Which is awesome. I love seeing that. And I love seeing all the kids around get to interact with all the different things. And some are buying bats, some are buying, you want all these bright colored shorts that look like ice cream and have sprinkles on them. All these kind of different things. Or one looks like a bomb pop or whatever. So I have seen a couple pretty sweet fungo bats out here that some teams have the bomb pop fungo bat. That thing is amazing. But no, I mean that place is so fun. I mean, so many shirts, hats. Uh, I mean, you can get different things like sewn. They have little patches they make. They'll sew them right on your hat, right there in front. I mean, there's so much cool stuff. The food. I mean, I tell you, I keep running back to this lemonade slushy stand that's just been taking all my cash. So just it's been a blast. The key is to go over there during another game that's going on, because that place
Yeah.
empties out when everybody comes in. When the SEC teams are playing, everyone's in there, so that place kind of empties out a little bit today. So I spent some time in there today again. Between the Arkansas game with Murray and then the LSU UCLA game again. So it's just kind of a fun place to pop back through, and it's fun to see some some different guys from some different teams. Going through there, and everyone always stops and signs all the autographs all the kids want. It's a really cool experience.
Now, I don't know if you're a collector or not. Have you been to the Stadium View Sports Cards shop to stop in and see Greg? Have you been in there?
Oh no,
You know
I
what I'm talking
haven't.
about? So it's an old school. The guy's name's Greg. He owns a place. He gives, if you buy something, I think he gives you a beer or something like that.
Oh,
And he's given away like 75,000 beers like over the years in Omaha. I'll send you a link. I'll find something. But I've actually messaged back and forth with his daughter because he's got tons of. It's just all Omaha memorabilia for over the years, like all College World Series memorabilia. Dating back as far as it can go. And if he's got something, like, you can buy it and they'll ship it to your house. So I've talked to his daughter about a couple of Louisville things that they've got from past years. But anyways, everybody that goes there says the place is just really, really cool. So just another, kind of hidden gem out there in Omaha to check out. So glad you're having a good time. But let's kind of chat over, change over direction, and talk about the games a little bit, kind of where we are. Obviously, the two brackets. Coastal Carolina is cruising in our bracket. They're in the uh, winners side of the championship bracket, and they'll face the winner of Louisville and Oregon State. Whoever wins our game tomorrow will have to beat them twice to advance to the College World Series, the finals. In the other bracket, you've got right now you've got Arkansas, who's in the losers bracket. They beat Murray this morning, which I hated to see that. Threw a no hitter against them. Did you stay and watch that game?
oh yeah, yeah. It
Yeah,
was. I mean, I wasn't able to make it from the very beginning. Louisville had practice at noon for about an hour and a half, and we did some media, and then I drove over there and saw about the last 5 innings or so. Um, just and it's I mean, something you'll never see again. At that, that hasn't happened in 65 years here. So,
yeah,
I'm 42. I'm not going to be around 65 more years. So, and I hope I'm not, to be completely honest. So, that's it was just kind of one of those performances. Like, there were a couple crazy things. I mean, obviously, he's got the perfect game going into the eighth, and hits the guy, and then has no problem from there on in that inning. And then they get that weird. I don't know. I mean, they ruled that the guy stuck his arm out, but it looked from the overhead camera like, I don't know. It didn't look like he was moving it to me. I mean, he was still
yeah.
clearly inside the box. I don't know, but either way, 19 strikeouts and a no hitter. I mean, what can you say about it? I mean, there'll never be a pitching performance like that probably in the history of the College World Series again. I know that I think I saw that somebody had a 21 strikeout performance, but it was in like a 15 inning game or something like
Wow.
that at one point way back in the day. But just a special performance. I was so happy that I decided to go over there because I was thinking about waiting for the night game, and so I was really happy that I went over to catch the end of it.
I think they said it was the third no hitter in College World Series history. And like you said, it had been 65 years since it happened before. So I mean, it not something you see every day. And like I said, I hate to see the Murray State run come to an end, but man, what a special end to the season that was for Dan Skirk and his crew, and what he's kind of built down there at Murray State. So glad to see another in-state school making it there with us. So they'll take on the loser of LSU and UCLA whenever that game finishes. It's currently in a rain delay. I had it pulled up a few minutes ago. I think UCLA was winning by a couple of runs, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember what the score was, but I think
LSU
UCLA
was
was
up, I
winning.
think.
LSU was up. Okay, but anyways, whenever that game does finish, it's going to be when it starts. It'll be in the top of the fourth, so they still got a lot of baseball left. So one thing to keep in mind, if they do play that thing in the morning, it could fluctuate Louisville's game time a little bit. So we no really official word on that yet, but that's one thing to keep an eye on. Louisville currently scheduled to play at 2 o'clock, which we'll talk about, but it wouldn't surprise me if there's a shift in the schedule, especially if they're not able to get that in tonight. So whichever team loses will take on Arkansas. Big thing for Arkansas today is you got a guy that does throw a no hitter, and when you get in the losers bracket, man, you don't have enough arms. There's not enough arms in a bullpen to get out of a losers bracket, and using one in a full 9 inning game, that's a big advantage that they'll have going forward.
Yeah, it's a huge advantage for them in that losers bracket for a multitude of reasons. Number one, their side of the bracket doesn't have an off day as they move forward, so they have to come right back and play tomorrow. And two, I'm assuming that they would like to try to finish that. We'll wait and see what the announcement is, but I'm assuming they'd like to finish that UCLA LSU game and roll the loser back of that game in tomorrow night to play to keep on schedule. And so somebody's going to have burned their bullpen potentially a little bit tomorrow in the early game. And so, Arkansas, look, really tough to battle back from when you lose that first game. But, they may have set themselves up to give themselves a good opportunity to try to get deeper into the tournament, even though they lost that first game.
And if there's anybody in the field that can do it, I think Louisville can do it too. I think we've got the makeup to do it, and where we are in the top bracket, you've got the days off and stuff like that. But Arkansas, I mean, they've got the bullpen to get back in this thing. So a lot of baseball to be played, but I think Arkansas is a team that could climb right out of that losers bracket into the finals, and it really wouldn't surprise me one bit. So let's talk about how Louisville got where we are currently. Obviously, we took the 4-3 loss to Oregon State on Friday, and that game it really just came down to pitching. I mean, 7 runs in a opening game in the College World Series. That's a testament to pitching staff on both sides. 26 strikeouts combined. The two teams left 17 batters left on base. So, I mean, there were opportunities. I mean, you could go up and down the lineup and say, well, Louisville should have done this. Louisville should have done that. Well, Oregon State should have done this and Oregon State should have done that, but our pitchers, they executed just as well as their pitchers did. So, I think there's some give and take there. You can't say that Louisville had, 5 opportunities that they should have scored at some point in the game. So did Oregon State. It's just part of baseball. When you've got good pitchers on the mound, that's kind of the result that you're going to see. But they both had opportunity to put up crooked numbers. But, Forbes delivered when we had to. Their dudes delivered when they had to. In the 5th inning, Louisville had runners on second and third with 1 out, couldn't score a run. In the 6th inning, Oregon State had the bases loaded with 1 out, and if we filled the double or the ground ball cleanly, they don't score at all. They do score 1, but then West strikes out the final 2 to really limit the damage to 1. So that could have been a huge crooked number there. Louisville stranded a couple more in scoring position in the 7th. It was back and forth like that the whole game, and they were just 2 really good college baseball teams battling out in Omaha, and that's really what it came down to. So fast forward to the 9th inning, Louisville was trailing 3-1, and it was a kind of a wild inning there in the 9th. Rose tripled to start the game or to start the inning. Tague drove him in to cut the lead to 3-2. Tanner Shiver comes in to pinch run, and he was thrown out at second, which was unfortunate. But we've talked about this all year long. That's part of the style that we play. That's the aggression. That Damon Dahl's going to take those chances. It is what it is. Then Alisea reaches on an error, this is one of the craziest plays I've seen in baseball in a long time. He hits a ground ball. It's thrown away from the first baseman. There's an error there. The catcher backs up the throw like he should have, picks up the ball, and when he goes to throw it, it goes behind him. It goes backwards about 10 feet. He has no idea where the ball is. Meanwhile, Alisea slides into second and then takes third because of that. And then Kamayu drives him in the next batter to tie the game. And we'll talk about Kamayu a little bit more, but man, what a College World Series he's having, and he just continues to deliver. And then obviously we know in the bottom of the 9th inning, Arquette singles and then Turley drives him home, and we'll talk about them again here in a little bit because we're going to see him again tomorrow. And those are 2 just very, very dangerous hitters. We saw that on full display Friday night. Those guys, they can beat you. And they end up doing that on Friday. So, uh, well, I think it was Turley hit the ball down in the left field corner. Zion did everything he could to kind of keep it in front of him and get the ball in, but it's too late, and the Arquette was able to score from first base and walk off the Cards 4-3. So I love the fight that we showed. I think it was we've seen that all year long. We continue to battle till the end, and we're down a couple runs going into the ninth, but we didn't quit. Love to see that from this team. But Terry, you were out there. Kind of give me your thoughts on what you saw being in Omaha.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, first off, the atmosphere was electric. So fun to just kind of be in there and feel it. I mean, I'm 5 feet from the surface down there. It was unbelievable just to watch that pitcher's duel unfold in those first three or so innings. Um, the guy, it was first off, it was great pitching for starters, but number two, I would be remiss if I didn't say that the shadows
Yeah,
it didn't have something to do with it.
I think
It
both
was
both staffs or coaches or collectively they all talked about it.
everybody talked about it in the post game, on both sides, and so like the thing was each side's pitcher was benefiting and each side's offense was having a hard time, and so what what guys were seeming to say after the game was early we should have gone earlier in the count after balls because or trying to hit the baseball earlier in the count because you got it you got later in the count and the guy's going to spin the baseball and you had no chance to pick that up in those shadows, and so something guys should have tried to and I'm not talking about us, I'm just saying in general. I think both teams probably felt like they should have taken a little bit of a different approach at the plate in those first three innings, just from not being able to see the baseball when it was spinning. And so, if you had a fastball, you really had to take advantage early in counts, and because otherwise it was just a swing and miss fest. No one could pick up the baseball, and the pitchers benefited. Like I said, both sides. I mean, it was a phenomenal pitchers duel there for a minute, and you as you rallied off kind of some of the things that happened, there were a lot of inflection points in the game.
Yep.
Where you felt like this could get away from us here a little bit. You mentioned the bases being loaded, and yeah, I mean we got a chance to get out of that unscathed,
Yep.
and um, I think Alisea just got a little ahead of himself.
Yep.
And I mean, he never does that. So what you gonna do? I mean, that's was his third, fourth error of the whole season. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't happen. And so it looked like he just was trying to make the play before the ball got to him. And that's what happens. But credit Justin West. I mean, he was up for the challenge. And it's so easy. We've talked about it, all season long, how easy it is to just kind of let things unravel on you when, as a pitcher, when something behind you doesn't go right. And to see him just like keep his head about him and just get back to work, kept us right in that ball game at that moment, and gave us a shot. And I think that was really what the key was like to me while you're watching the game happen is, can our pitchers keep us within striking distance, basically. And they did a phenomenal job of doing that. And as look, they took advantage. They got that run there on the error. Um, so they took advantage of some of ours. We took advantage of some of theirs later in the game. And there's a few plays I'm sure that some of the guys would like to have back. I mean, you could see after the steal attempt. You could see it right on. I could hear him obviously and see him. See his reactions in the dugout as he's in there. I mean, I'm literally there, right there, but he knew he got a bad jump. I mean, he was. They reviewed it. It was a good tag, but I
Yep.
mean, he was out. And I will say this: um, And this is not meant as a slight in any way to anyone who's come in to try to do this job throughout the season. But something that is missing in Louisville's lineup is a guy off the bench to steal a base. Because the guys to steal bases are on the field.
Hmm.
And we've typically had throughout, you could go on throughout the years past of there's just been a guy that could pop in and grab you a bag if you needed one. And we just don't really have that. We've, like I said, we've got a ton of guys that play, you know, every day that can steal bases. But I think coming into that, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Tanner was the right guy to try. I think he
Yeah.
was 3 for 3 on the year, and I know that that's not very many attempts, but he hasn't got a lot of opportunity to be out there to do so. And so, you think maybe he is the guy, but it just wasn't a good jump. And so that is something that's kind of missing is just an extra guy, just that's just a burner to be able to get you a base. Like I said, we've had that in the past, and so I'm sure that'll be something that they take a look at going forward. But because that could have been that was a big run, obviously at that point in the game, especially because the way the rest of the inning happened to unfold.
Yeah.
And then you get to the ninth, or you get to the bottom of the ninth, excuse me, or there, for Oregon State, and you know, there. Look, I read some, you do it too. I read it. There's a lot of, oh well, why did you leave that kid in? Why is listen? Clearly, if you're someone who is asking why is he the kid that's being left in the game or something to that effect, I mean, just tell me you haven't watched him all year. I mean, because that's exactly what you're saying. If you haven't watched them all year, then just be quiet. I mean, trust me, man, there are a lot of people jumping on Twitter that just started watching this baseball team 2 to 3 weeks ago. If you're getting any kind of information from them or following whatever they say as though they know what they're talking about, then that's on you because you should know better. But that's the dude you want with the baseball in that situation. Did he give up a couple hits? Yes, he did. Was he pounding the strike zone? Yes, he was. That's baseball, man. I mean, what do you want him to do? Pitch around him? I mean, the one Arquette is going to be a top 5 pick.
Hmm.
I mean, what more can you say? It's a great hit. And the next one on the double in the corner, I will say this. Um, I would guess if Zion had to do that over again, he'd probably try to play it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Um, I understood what he was trying to do for sure. Um, but if the play's not made perfectly in that way,
That's the result.
that's what happens. And
Yeah.
so forcing yourself to make a sliding backhanded play. And again, he thought, I do want to emphasize, if he fields it clean, it's all good. But that's a really, really tough play. And it obviously did not allow him to get anything on the throw. And then the play unfolded as it did. Now, if he fields that ball clean, they don't even send that guy home. I mean, it was a close play anyway.
Yeah.
So if Zion gets that ball clean, they don't even send him home, and so you don't know how that unfolds. Um, it was a really tough play, and so what are you gonna do? He did the best he could. He did what he thought he needed to do in that situation, and it didn't
Yeah.
work out. And so, I mean, that's life. That's sports. That's baseball. I mean, that's how it goes. And so that one didn't go our way, and that was unfortunate because we get walked off in Omaha, and you find yourself in the losers bracket.
A couple things I want to kind of touch on that you talked about there. One with Zion, defensively, he's looked really, really good this weekend. He made a diving play. He made the double play. The guy he threw out at tagging from second to third against Arizona on Sunday. He's played left field really well. But yeah, that ball, if he doesn't field that cleanly, that's going to be the result. There's one or two ways that's going to go, but it's a tough ball either way. Down in the corner, that's a tough ball to play, regardless of how you approach it. The other thing I want to touch on is Schweitzer. You talked about him. Is he the guy? Is he not the guy? Not coming from you, but we saw it all over social media. He was the guy when we beat Vandy at Vandy in the regional down there. He threw the ninth inning. We had a 3-2 lead. That was fine. Uh, Biggest 3 innings of the game against Miami on Sunday. He threw those innings, and it was fine. He was the guy for that inning, or that's who should have been on the mound. So anybody that thinks otherwise, like you said, just hasn't been watching a lot of Louisville baseball, because he was the dude that should have been on the mound at that point in time. Um, that's kind of how the game against Oregon State on Friday went. Kind of tough luck, but like you said, or like we talked about, both teams had a chance to blow the thing open a couple times, but the pitching staffs were kind of the name of the game on Friday, which you see that a lot in Omaha. So let's flip over to the Sunday game, elimination game against Arizona after they got beat by Coastal Carolina, which was kind of another wild game. And it was funny. I was watching the game, and I kept going back to Terry. You've talked about for a long, long time now, Tony Pluta, the closer for Arizona. You mentioned it many a times on a couple different episodes about how their closer and how good he is, and hasn't given up a run since April 1st, I think it was. And they bring him in the game, and I'm like, oh gosh, we got some momentum here, like things are going, we're finally getting something to go our way. And then here comes Tony Pluta in the game. So we'll talk about him in just a minute, but I want to start with the pitching staff, because again, to give up 3 runs in a game in Omaha, our pitching staff really had everything going for them. Eberle gave up 3 runs in 3 2/3, and after that, that was it. Arizona couldn't score. Daniel Levitch came in, threw 1 1/3 scoreless, and then Tucker Biven came in, and man, he was elite on Sunday. He threw the final 4 innings. I think gave up 5 hits, no runs. Really, Arizona really didn't have a ton of any chances. He really kept them at bay for the final 4 innings. I've never really got nervous that it was going to get out of hand. But like you said, you talked about West and Oregon State. Tucker kind of provided the same thing against Arizona. It's like, it's a close game. We just need the bullpen. We need the pitching staff just to give our offense a chance to get going. Don't let this thing get out of hand. Just hold it within a run, hold it within 2 runs, because we're going to hit the ball. It's just, when are we going to hit the ball? And Tucker did just that, and he did it for 4 innings, and he did it exceptionally well by throwing 4 shutout innings of baseball. So offense was able to get back in it and do their thing and pick up a win. And I think it starts and ends with what Camayo did at the plate. 4 hits, first Louisville player to ever record 4 hits in a College World Series game. So kudos to Camayo. But I want to jump to, I know there's a lot of game I'm skipping over, but we all kind of know what happens. I want to talk about the 8th inning, because that's really when most of the action started. Louisville trailed 3-2, put up a big 6 spot, which ended up being the final score of 8-3. So we get the first 2 base runners on, 1 by error, and then I think it's Eddie King Jr. Laced a ball up the middle, and then in comes Tony Pluta. He's the stopper of the year, first team All-American, hadn't given up a run since April 1st, I think it was, and Louisville didn't stop there. They had 5 hits on him, the most he'd given up all season long. Put up 4 runs. Only one of them was earned because they had some errors and stuff like that. But really just, hit him exceptionally well compared to what he had been used to the rest of the season. Everything seemed to be going our way. You had Garrett Pike on third base. I'm assuming there was a missed squeeze sign or something in there, maybe he read something differently. I don't know, because Pike kind of broke for home, and a bunt wasn't laid down, so he gets in a rundown, and he's going to be out at home, and I think it was actually Pluto that had the ball that drops it, and uh, Pike scores when he would have been out. So just everything seemed to be going our way. We hit the ball very well, obviously, but we finally got those breaks that we had been looking for that you and I have talked about on here. It was, I think, one of the most refreshing things to me was Lucas Moore in that eighth inning. He got a single. He'd kind of been in a slump, but he got a single, stole a base, and then he scored on Matt Klein's single. And I think just getting him some momentum and seeing like how valuable Lucas Moore is to this roster. We saw that just in that short, I don't know, 5-6 pitch sequence. Single, stolen base, scores on a single. Like that's it. And he can change the game so fast. And he'd been in a little bit of a slump. It's part of baseball. It is what it is. So I'm hoping he can really carry some of that momentum over to Oregon State tomorrow. So one other thing they talked about on the broadcast, I believe I heard this correct, and I looked it up, and I haven't been able to find anybody that said this was incorrect. But they said on the broadcast that Arizona was 36-0 this year when leading after 7 innings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
and
true.
now they're 36-1. They were tied with Coastal a couple nights before after 7 and lost, but this game they were leading after 7 and lost. So 36-1, and Louisville was the one loss. So again, I just said it a few minutes ago about the Oregon State game, but kudos to the team for battling. They could have easily just kind of rolled over, weren't able to get any momentum going, and then Coach Mack kind of got into him a little bit. If you haven't seen that speech that he gave, was it the 6th inning, I believe?
Yeah.
I think it was the 6th. If you haven't seen that speech, you go find it on Twitter. You'll find it somewhere. Or if not, we'll try to throw it out there in the timeline. He kind of got after him and just told him what the approach needed to look like. We're not going to wait until the 9th inning. We've got 4 innings, and we're going to do it now. And it was that's just classic Coach Mack. Kind of getting after him, and he talked about that quite a bit in the post game. So I'll let you talk about that because I know you were in the room with him when he was discussing a little bit. So what was it like being out there and kind of being close to the action when we made that big run in the 8th?
I'll circle back to it in just a second, but in the post game, that was my question actually in the post game, and it was just kind of funny because the way he answered it, I couldn't tell if he didn't really appreciate that I asked about it. Now he got a lot of love online for his answer to me about the thing was, it was made this really big deal on TV, and social media had obviously picked up on it and things like that. I figured it deserved a question. I mean, it was clearly a talking point.
Yep.
So I went ahead and asked. I was actually the last question in the press conference, so I'm glad I did ask it because it did get some people seem to really appreciate his answer. He didn't tell me afterwards that he didn't like it. So, but I just kind of his demeanor. I just wasn't 100% sure that he appreciated being asked about something that he. I mean, he was getting after him, and I don't know that you always love when a camera's in your face when you're coaching them hard. But that's the thing about coaching is and he mentioned it, there are times when you put your arm around somebody and tell them, hey, it's okay. We're going to keep going. It's, whatever, like the approach, we'll stick with the approach, whatever it may be. But there are times when you've got to get after them. And again, I've talked about this a couple different times on here. It's obviously a completely different level, set of circumstances, any of those things. But I did coach track for a number of years, and the one thing that I always was very aware of was I only have so many times throughout the season that I can really get after them, and they'll know I mean business. If you're someone that is always a yeller, they're gonna just tune you out eventually, and
It's not effective.
Yeah, and so and look, this goes for work, anything like if you're a manager of something or whatever it may be. I mean, I'm sure we've all been in had jobs in our life where, our boss probably didn't really understand that each person needs something different at different times. And so, this was one of those times that, look, he'd seen and had enough. And if they didn't change the approach, they'd be home in Louisville right now.
Yeah.
And so, it was time for them to just, they weren't getting it, and it was time for him to make sure they got it. And so I thought it was awesome. So that is why I asked. But, as far as the whole game goes, you're right. I have talked about Tony a lot, or several times throughout the year. He's spectacular. I mean,
Hmm.
there is definitely a part of me that feels bad for him, that he's just so great all year. And, you kind of get to this moment, you get your shot right to kind of just shut it down. And look, they were asking him to get 6 outs. Um, the funny thing was, so throughout the game, I was kind of trying to change them. I was trying to do anything I could, which I know is zero, but just in my own brain to try to change them. I was moving around. I watched the first 4 to 5 innings down by the dugout. Then I went up and sat in this hot sun for 2 innings. Then I went up to the concourse. The concourse seemed to work, so I stayed in the concourse. But when they went, when they first went to the bullpen, I thought they might go to him right away. I thought they really might try to have him get 9 outs because it's do or die,
Yep.
and and so they go to a they go to a I'm gonna blank on this kid's name, whoever they brought in first, but his ERA was near 6,
Yep.
and his WHIP was high, and his batting average against was like 267 or 276. One of the I'm gonna be dyslexic on that part, but um, I felt good about that matchup, and it was working out. They got, we get a couple there, and we're working our way back, and you could tell like that was a favorable matchup for us. So they finally go to him, and you know it all starts. The whole inning starts with the error, and it often does.
Hmm.
Honestly, in college baseball, and more often than not at this level, where now granted there he is a phenomenal pitcher, so he's got a better chance than most to be able to pitch around a leadoff mistake or a walk or whatever it may be hit. But the way it started unfolding, with the Eddie's ball was a good clean hit, obviously, but then um the blue pits, and those kind of things just have to make you so frustrated as a pitcher. And to give you guys just a few numbers about how good he was throughout the entire year, just so you know, it's not. This is absolutely insane. For the year, in 36, I think, .1 innings of work, he'd given up 23 hits. The whole year, 23 hits. 7 walks the entire year. 7 walks. I don't want to. I don't want to say anybody's name on here, but we've got some pitchers on our roster that walked more than 7 dudes in a game this season. Um, so I'm just, and I'm not saying that to disparage anybody. I'm just trying to let you know, like, that's how amazing he's been. He's that guy. Like, if you are a fan of a Major League Baseball team, you want your team to draft that dude a month from now. He is going to be a pro, and he is going to be a great one. His ERA, I think, was 1.23, and his WHIP was .83. That is stupid. That is just so ridiculous how great that kid is. And like I said, I honestly did feel bad for him. I just to be that good and to have it unraveled on him, and it unraveled very quickly. And like I said, the blue pits, one falls just inside. Zion's falls just inside that line, and 2 run score, and then like you said, you've got the drop at the plate. You've got a squeeze play for another run. Like, it just, like, anything that could go wrong if you're Arizona went wrong. And anything that could have gone your way if you're Louisville went your way. And you mentioned Lucas Moore. I 100% agree. I just he's such a great baseball player. There's almost the list of things that he can't do on a baseball field is very, very small. And I think that he obviously knows and recognizes how important it is to the team when he's on base. Zion talked about it this week. When Lucas is on base, when Lucas gets a hit, it's a double or a triple because he's going to steal second and he might also steal third. I mean, it's basically a run. If Lucas gets on base, it's basically a run. And that steal, I mean, the guy's just holding the baseball, just not paying any attention. I mean, just standing there holding it. And by the time he turned around, it's too late. He's too fast. I thought today at practice it was really interesting. I mean, Coach Mack was really stressing some small detail things about running the bases. They really worked on when running to first, staying in the running lane. Do not be inside that baseline running down there so you get any kind of obstruction call. I mean, those are, those type of little things. Just everybody ran down to, sprinted to first base, running inside. I mean, he had everyone do it except for the catchers. They had their gear on. Everyone did it. It's just to re-emphasize some small things because if you get caught, like just in that situation, you get caught just not paying attention one time, you don't want it to be on this stage. And, I don't want to say we were lucky because we made things happen and we forced the issue, and Arizona did not respond well when faced with that pressure. And so there were some huge hits. You talked about, I didn't even mention Kamayu. I'm talking way too much here, but he had a couple plays defensively on Friday night that he probably would like to have back because they're not errors, but he probably thought he could have / should have made that play. Lose the ball on a transfer. We got beat behind the shift at least twice.
I was going to bring that up. Yep.
The shift burnt us. Now, it did get us one time because he caught the liner behind second base, but the shift hurt us more than it helped us on Friday night. 2 of the 5 hits Patrick gave up, I think, were behind the shift. And two more were infield singles.
Yep.
I mean, they weren't hitting them hard or anything, but anyway, I'll stop talking. But it was awesome. It was magic. Tucker Biven was nails. I mean, I could go on and on, but I'll let it get back to you here.
No, it was definitely a fun game, and a couple things. You talk about being in the base paths, and nobody did anything wrong. Kamayo I think they were trying to pick him off second base when he got drilled in the back with that ball. That looked so painful. For that moment, I was so glad that I was sitting on my couch and not playing baseball because, man, that looked like that hurt. He's definitely feeling that one today. But there was another one. I think it was Alisea bunted the ball. I believe it was him. And he's running down first base line, and the pitcher kind of fields the ball and kind of trails behind him and has to throw it to first. And Alisea he's in the baseline. He's where he's supposed to be. He wasn't out of the baseline by any stretch of imagination. But the pitcher really had to go loop it up and over Alisea to get the ball to the first baseman. And at that point in time, he just couldn't because he was too quick. So teaching those small things, it really does pay off because one mistake, if you're to the left a little bit or to the right a little bit, that plays a little bit different. He's out, or it could be obstruction depending on where he's standing because he's out of the base path. So teaching those small things is something that Coach McDonald has always done, especially when it comes to base running, and you see it pay off time and time again. Another thing I want to touch on, we talked about Tony Pluta, and you could talk about him all day long. He made 30 appearances this year, and in his 30 appearances, he gave up earned runs in 3 of them, and one of them was Sunday. That's it. just if you just go look at his stat sheet if you haven't looked it up. I hadn't seen him throw a ton before. Saw him throw a little bit in the NCAA tournament, but regular season, I think he threw a third of an inning against us down in Arlington. But outside of that, really haven't seen him. But if you just just go look at his stat sheet, and you'll absolutely be blown away because the guy's an absolute superstar. So I'm glad we were able to pick up the W and continue this thing. But that was a fun game, and that sets up a rematch with Oregon State tomorrow. For now, scheduled for 2 p.m. I just looked and I haven't seen anything change. So as of right now, we're still on for 2 o'clock as a rematch against the Beavers. I think I forgot to mention this, and obviously you all are with us, so we're live. If you've got anything you want to talk about or chat about, drop it in the comments on here on YouTube or on X, Twitter, whatever we're calling it these days, and we'd be happy to talk about some of those things. So one thing that's coming in is who we're expecting to see pitch tomorrow. That's something I was going to get to here in just a little bit, but since we're talking about Oregon State and the game tomorrow, I think most hands, I don't want to say all hands, most hands are on deck tomorrow. You've got cuts. You got Peter Michael, Daniel Levitch is available, West is available, Schweitzer's available. I looked earlier. Neither coach has announced publicly who is going to start for the team tomorrow. What are your thoughts, Terry? I know we haven't seen Peter Michael throw in a long time. I know the staff, they've tended to like cuts out of the bullpen, but he's obviously started plenty of big games in his career, so he's got the makeup for that as well. What are your thoughts how we approach it tomorrow?
Yeah, so I asked Brennan today if about him start, because I knew I wasn't going to get a straight answer from Mac, and I don't even bother asking Roger. But they were saying they didn't know for sure. Right?
Yeah.
The same answer you get all the time. Roger got to go over he's going to go over the matchups. I talked to Peter Michael on Friday night after the game. He was one of the guys they were drug testing, and let me tell you, the NCAA, man, get it together with the drug testing. These kids, their drug test, I think there were 5 kids being drug tested Friday night after the game. I mean, they're in there for like an hour or more after the game's over. You know how hot it is and how much they sweat. Those guys aren't ready to take a drug test at that point. The bus left them. They've got to find rides back to the hotel. I'm trying to think of who else there. Klein was in there. Tig Davis was in there. No, Justin West. Justin West, I think, might have been last. He was still in there, I think, when everyone else had finally come. Just ridiculous. I've been drug tested at the end of some championship events and things like that. That's ridiculous. That setup needs some work. But I'm sure no one from the NCAA is watching this right now. But I will say this. Peter Michael did say on Friday that he was told if they make it to Tuesday, he'd probably be the guy. That they'd probably toss him the ball. Now, Brendan Cutts told me today that he was told he would likely, it wasn't, they hadn't told him for sure yet, but that he would likely be first up out of the bullpen. You can definitely, I would say, you're going to see Cutts tomorrow. That is a guarantee. Everybody, I would say, except Tucker, and definitely not Forbes. Oh man, anyone else not available? I wouldn't think so. I would say everybody else is probably available tomorrow. And so, as you start to get into the tournament, Tucker only threw 50 some odd pitches. Was it 50 on the dot? Somewhere right in there.
Yeah.
Yesterday. So, you could see Tucker for a few innings. You might even be able to see him on Wednesday. How fast would they, as you flip forward, how fast would they be willing to bring Forbes back? Could you see him on Thursday? Would you throw him for a few innings Wednesday if you needed to. I mean, it just, if you need outs, you got to go to your best arms, and so there'll be some decisions to be made as that as far as that all goes. If you're able to win tomorrow, but everybody except those two guys, I would say, is available. And Eberly. I'm sorry, I didn't mention
Everly,
Eberly.
yeah.
Eberly also not available. Really quick, just because I talked way too long about other stuff, but I did want to make sure I mentioned, you know, Ethan Eberly, um, really big stage for a freshman to run out in an elimination game. And I don't know if it was nerves or not, with a couple hit batters, and they found some CNI singles off him, some balls that just bounced 3 times through, and found their way through. But man, that kid settled down really nicely after that, and
Yeah.
gave us a chance. And I just, it wasn't his best performance, but he steadied himself, and I just really, really liked the composure that he showed out there to just like, whatever they kind of talked about or whatever after that first inning in the dugout, and he just kind of seemed like he just was able to take a deep breath and let's reset. And I thought he was really, really good after that. And as far as Bivin goes, that right away, he comes in, and White had done a great job the inning before, and was struggling to find the zone there for a minute to start the inning. They go right to Tucker. That first pitch, he gets the pop up right back to him. And the next one, I mean, I don't know what Arizona. I, I don't know what the kid's name is that was on base, but I mean, that was one of the cardinal sins in baseball. I mean, trying to tag up with it right in front of you. He was 10 feet from the base and he was tagged out. I mean, he hadn't even started, he hadn't even thought about starting the slide. That was really goofy, but you got to give Zion credit. I mean, he threw a seed. That thing was on the money, and I mean, Jake was able to just kind of grab it. And I mean, he ran up the line, just tagged the guy. I mean, very strange play. I mean, they had an opportunity for an inning to kind of like try to really separate themselves, and they were the ones that made the mistakes. And I think that's the thing. Like, when another team is making mistakes, you have to punish them. You cannot let them off the hook, and Louisville didn't uh, on Sunday, and that's why they're getting ready to play another baseball game tomorrow.
Yeah, and I do want to talk about. We talked about Zion a little bit earlier, and that we haven't seen his arm a ton this year. He hasn't had to show it off, but when he did, like you said, the guy had no business running. But I was impressed with his arm. I mean, he put it on the spot. I mean, he hit Jake right in the chest with it, and like you said, Jake didn't even stay at the base. He ran down the line, in between second and third, to tag the guy because the guy had absolutely no business sliding whatsoever. But that you talk about that, when tomorrow's game, if they give us those opportunities, we have to capitalize on those. Oregon State is a different team than Arizona, and anything that we're given tomorrow, we have to take advantage of that. So I think that's going to be a real key to the game tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow night or whenever this thing eventually gets played, because it looks like rain is heading to Omaha again tomorrow. It looks like we do have some comments coming in. Kevin says that it is cuts that's starting tomorrow. They've announced it to the team internally. I'm not sure, but that could be the case. Somebody asked about Oregon State's pitching depth. I found some information on their pitching from a guy that covers them, because I'm not an expert on Oregon State baseball. I can tell you that for sure. So I used my resources and found a guy that does cover them. And the 3 names that he mentioned for tomorrow are James DeCreamer as a possible starter. He started game 3 against Florida State in the Supers. So he's a potential option. He's made 14 appearances this year, only 3 starts, one of them being at that point in time their biggest game of the season, with the season on the line against the Knowles last week. But he's 3-0 with a 5.34 ERA, 3 starts, just 28 innings. So my guess is probably if they get a couple innings out of him, couple three or four, that they'll probably be really happy. He's not a guy that I would anticipate going long into the game, but it's Omaha. That anything can happen out here. Nelson Keljo, I hope I'm saying that correctly. He's another name that was mentioned. He's made 10 starts this year, 3-2 with a 3.74 ERA. One thing that kind of stuck out to me when looking over his numbers, he's walked 32 batters in 55 innings. So if we see him, there's big opportunity there to get some pitches on him. His arm and be patient. Another name he mentioned three. The third one is AJ Hutcherson. He's 3-0 with a 4 ERA, and he's made 23 appearances this year. So I don't think he'd made any starts when I was looking over their numbers, but those are three of the guys that he kind of said you will see them tomorrow. Again, that's I'm going off a guy that covers them. That's kind of his expertise. So the Creamer, Keljo, Hutcherson are kind of the guys that they anticipate we could see tomorrow. So looks like we've got about almost 800 people out there watching. So anything you want us to chat about as we kind of get to the end of things tonight, drop it in there. Bivin threw 53 pitches. So, like you said, this is the time of the year that the pitching staff, the coaching staff has the ability to kind of get creative and, run guys back out there after a day or two's rest. So I think we'll definitely see that from Coach McDonald and Coach Williams tomorrow. Offensively, we saw this team. We're going to be familiar with them a little bit. Arquette, we talked about him earlier. The Athletic projects him as the #1 player in the draft this year. I mean, that right there, I mean, that tells you all you need to know. Jim Callis at MLB.com has him at the #6 player in the draft. Again, it's that right there. He's hitting 353, 18 home runs, 65 RBIs this year. Just put up some silly numbers. Gavin Turley, the guy that drove him in on Friday night to got the game-winning hit, he's not far behind. He's hitting 350 with 20 home runs and 69 RBIs. But as a team, they hit 291, which that doesn't pop off the paper, right? So it seems like they're pretty top heavy, but at the top they're elite. Those couple guys are as good as they get. So I think we've talked about this before. I think we could see this thing being a high scoring affair. Bullpens are going to start getting depleted a tad, depending on what your starters do. This is kind of that time in Omaha that whoever's able to kind of weather the storm with their bullpen is who's going to continue to have success. And both teams have a long road ahead. At the way it stands right now, as long as the schedule stays current, you've got a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday game. If you keep winning, Louisville has to win Tuesday, then they play Coastal on Wednesday. If they beat Coastal on Wednesday, then they play them again on Thursday. So getting creative with the bullpen is kind of the name of the game at this point in the season. So, Terry, we just saw, obviously, Oregon State just a couple nights ago. It was a one-run game, and it came down to walk-off hits. So it's not like they dominated us by any stretch of imagination, and we had opportunities to put up some crooked numbers and win the game. How do we feel about the Beavers tomorrow at 2 o'clock?
Yeah, I mean, look, they're a great team. A top 10 team.
Yep.
Virtually the whole year, and deservedly so. And look, you got to give a lot of credit to their athletic director, to their head coach for the type of schedule that they were able to put together. I mean, they were virtually not at home all year. I mean, they played very, very few. Was it like 17 home games? I think it was like 17 home games, something like that. That's insane, even for a Midwest North or a Northeast team. You usually get more home games than that. And so, I know Michigan plays, more home games than that. So, with them going independent, they put together a monster schedule that had them ready to go. Look, they're in Omaha. I don't want to say mainstay, but I mean, they're one of those names that you expect to be around come late, the middle of June. And on Memorial Day weekend, you're going to hear their name called likely as a host most of the time. And it's a really hard place to go and play. They've always got arms. They've always got. How many? I mean, how many middle infielders can they have drafted in the top 10 just over and over and over again? It's insane. Um, all from Corvallis, Oregon. Just wild. Um, so a hat tip to them to be able to continue to recruit at that level to get kids to come up there because it's not like recruiting down to LSU or Arkansas or Tennessee or those places. I mean, you've got to really sell your program up there, and so look, they're great, and they've got some great arms, but they've thrown a few of them already, and there are some guys that are not available tomorrow for them, more than likely. Because you never know at this time of year what if you might try to recycle somebody on just one day off, but um, they've got some dudes on both sides, whether it be the pitching staff, whether it be in the batter's box. Look, as far as Arquette goes, you mentioned him. How good. We've talked a little bit tonight about how good he is. I mean, he wasn't great defensively the other night, and that was very out of character. I don't
Yep.
really know what he was trying to do on that one ball. Like it looked like he was trying to go to third with it, maybe. I'm not really sure. I thought that was a harder play. Like he made it tougher than it needed to be. The ball was hit pretty sharp at him, but look, he's gonna make the plays. He's gonna pick up hits. You saw him pick up the hit, obviously in the ninth inning. It's a really good baseball team. But here's the thing: we're a really good baseball team, and we've got dudes. And although I think they have 6 guys with 10 or more home runs, I believe I have that correct. That Oregon State has 6 dudes that can hit the ball like that. But here's the thing: unless you hit it in the corner, in one of the 2 corners here, it's not going out. I mean, unless you really, really get one. I mean, it's just not going. There were a few balls struck over the last few days that I thought were gone, but off the bat, and they were like 3 feet from the warning track. I mean, not even close. It just is not traveling out there in those gaps and into straightaways. So if you can get one down the line, it'll go. We've seen a few of those, but the ball's not traveling like that, and so you've got to be able to stay. From a hitter's approach, you got to be able to get on top of the baseball, to be able to drive the ball, be able to get it, be able to get the ball, be able to get the ball down. And so, man, I like our lineup. I like the positive momentum that we're feeling going into tomorrow. I thought about that yesterday was okay, we're coming off a win going in, and whoever we're going to play is coming off a loss. Like, is that an advantage? I don't know, but it's not a disadvantage. That's for
Right.
sure. And so, I, the same way that it has all year, the same things we've talked about all season, the same things Coach McDonald and the whole team preach. I mean, we talked to Kamayu today after practice. I mean, he's running through Coach McDonald's phrases with us out there. Pitching and defense. If they take care of the things they can take care of, they'll win tomorrow. Um,
Yep.
Pound the ball in the strike zone. Coach Rogers been telling them, right? The 17 inches, that's the key. Those 17 inches. Pound the strike zone. And the defense, you mentioned it early, it's been really, really good. Uh, really this whole postseason run for the most part. But it's been really good out here in Omaha, and I look for that to continue tomorrow. I mean, if we the the guys love playing defense behind pitchers that are pounding the zone. And so, you're going to get that from Cuts and some of the other guys that follow. And so, I will say this: it's going to be quick hooks tomorrow. You're not going to get much. You're not going to get much leeway, because with the season on the line and with most everybody available, if it's not going well early, you might be back in the dugout quickly, because I think he'll continue to search for somebody that can really step up and get the job done tomorrow if it's not going that way early for somebody.
You talked about the ball not flying out there, and I want to touch on that since we're talking about the pitching a little bit. I want to say it was Jay Johnson in one of the LSU games, and I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure it was Coach Johnson down at LSU. They're doing the mid game interviews, which I'm not a fan of. It's cool because you get to hear from the coaches. I get that, but they don't want to do that stuff. None of them do. But the reporter says, I think it was the Arkansas game. They've hit a couple balls that at your park would have been home runs. How do you feel about your pitching staff? He's like, well, I'm glad we're playing in Omaha. Because, like you said, the ball's just not traveling. And unless you really just pull it right down the foul lines, the ball's not traveling whatsoever, which I think plays well to Louisville because we play a lot of small ball, right? That's what we do. And like you said, Oregon State, they play the long ball. They've got a bunch of guys that can hit it deep. So obviously they beat us on Tuesday, so they did something. But we definitely could see that as an advantage. Breaking news, I'm reading this from the chat, so haven't confirmed. LSU UCLA has been postponed until tomorrow. They will start at 10 a.m. Louisville versus Oregon State will resume 1 hour after 10 a.m. That is in Central Time. So they'll play at 11 o'clock Eastern Time. And they've got, 6 innings to play, I believe. So they've got a couple hours of baseball plus an hour in between. So Louisville, let's see, Louisville maybe starting around 3:30, somewhere between 3 and 4 o'clock hour if I had to guess. So thank you to DeReal MVP for dropping that in the chat. Kevin mentioned this in the chat too, and Terry, I've seen a lot of stuff about the lineup moving this or moving this hitter, moving that hitter. He said you keep Zion at 7 and Pike at 8. When you look up and down this lineup, it's so hard because we've talked about this 1 through 9. This team hits, right? And if you move somebody up, then somebody's got to go down, and they just hit the whole lineup does. So it's hard to move somebody up because who is going to get punished for to move down the lineup? I think in Coach Mack, one thing he tries to do is play splits. Left right. You try to do that as much as you can. Obviously, you're not going to build a lineup directly around that, but you try to do that as much as you can just to when you play those splits, especially later in the game when you go to the bullpen, they can't play those splits as much. What are your thoughts on the lineup? Because I think where we are at this point in the season, my opinion, it kind of is what it is, and I don't think I would toy with it a whole lot.
Well, do you mean the one that we rolled out on Friday or the one that we rolled out on Sunday?
I guess either. Do you have a preference on which one they play?
Well, I just, he maneuvered it around a little bit for Sunday and dropped some, like you said, dropped some guys down. He mentioned it today because we asked him about it today after practice, and he kind of mentioned, will you stick with that? Will you stick with, or will you, revert back to kind of what you liked against Oregon State on Friday? And he said probably some sort of a hybrid is what he said that he would probably come up with for tomorrow. The thing about it is, how many. It's so crazy to look at the lineup, like you mentioned, and look at where like Tag and Zion are hitting, and you're just like, this is insane. But I love the idea of if if Alex is feeling okay in terms of like, hey, I can handle some more at bats. I'm feeling a little bit better health wise. Can I get some more? I'm good to get an extra at bat or whatever each game, because over the course of a weekend they were probably saving him 3, 4, 5 at bats by dropping him down in the lineup, and I think that was the whole point. Just keep him a little fresher if you can. At this time of the year and the way he's swinging it, you go you move him back up the lineup, and I think that's the right move. After those two guys as your table setters up there, and by the way, for the record, I mean your 9-hole hitter had 4 hits on Sunday, so I mean, what are you gonna do when that happens? I mean, and look, is he gonna get 4 hits again tomorrow? Probably not, but is he gonna go to the plate with as much confidence as he's had all year? Absolutely. He's clearly seeing it really well. Juggling the rest of that lineup in there with those other 6 guys, I wouldn't want to be the guy that made that lineup up. I
Yeah.
mean, because you could slot virtually anybody anywhere to give them to either protect or get protected by somebody else. So whether you want to bat Zion in front of or behind Tag or whatever the case may be, same with Monroe and Eddie. I, kind of one of the things that everybody seems to wonder about, where do you slot Garrett? Uh,
Yeah.
I personally always I think that they're probably going to slot him back down farther again tomorrow if I had to guess, but I always really liked him up in the lineup. He's a great doubles hitter, and that
Yep.
fits this lineup. Now he obviously he struggled a little bit on Friday night, and so they dropped him down the lineup, and he was better yesterday. He did a much he was sometimes I think it just takes some of the pressure off. You know what I mean? Like, hey, just be you. You don't have to do anything else. Just be you. And I think that's kind of the same thing that I was talking about earlier with Lucas Moore. When
Lucas. Yep.
it's when you're struggling just a little bit, you're gripping the bat a little tighter. You're thinking, I gotta do this. I gotta get on because I gotta be the guy that gets it going. You don't gotta do anything extra. No one on this team has to do anything extra. Just be themselves. That's enough. Look where they are. I, Look, let's be real. Half or 3/4 of the people that are watching this right now wrote this team off 3 weeks ago, if you were even paying attention then. And so the ride that these guys have taken everybody on has been spectacular, and it's because they're just being themselves. Everyone's just doing their job. You're a pitcher, pound the strike zone. You're a hitter, move the baseball. Yeah, I mean, you're on defense, just make the play. You don't have to make the special play, just make the play. You don't have to make some special, just get the easy out. We saw that kind of start to unravel on us a little bit against Vanderbilt in the 1 inning where things started to get away from us a little bit when we're just trying to do a little too much and you just try to force it. And you don't have to force it. You're here for a reason. Like, you're one of the best 6 teams in college baseball. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not willing to listen to anybody tell me that this is some kind of Cinderella run or anything like that. This is a team that proved it all year that when the lights are on, they're ready to roll. How many times do I have to talk about when them playing on national television and what their record is? They have like 3 losses on national TV. They're like 14-3, 15-3. I lost count. They're When the lights are bright, this team shines. And is it going to equal a win tomorrow? I don't know. I hope it does. But I'll tell you this: I think you're going to get their best baseball tomorrow, and that's all you can ask from them. Is let's go out, let's play our best, and if it's our day, it's our day. But that's what's weird about baseball. In a one-off, who knows? I think that I think we've got with Oregon State's 2 frontline pitchers not available tomorrow. I feel good about it.
No, I think 100%. I agree with you. I'm not going to come on here and you know guarantee that Louisville's going to win the baseball game tomorrow, but offensively, we're going to do enough against their secondary pitchers, in my opinion. I think the Sunday, what I would kind of correlate this to, the Sunday game against Florida State. So the game 3 of the Super Regionals, I think they gave up 10 runs. I think they won 14-10 or something like that. So that tells me right there that Louisville's going to have the potential to score some runs. I'm not worried about that one bit. Like you said, you're going to see our best baseball tomorrow. And this team, they continue to perform against the best teams on their schedule. They won the series against Florida State. They won the series against UNC. They went down to Arlington and went 2-1. Like they just continue to play their best when they're playing against the best. So I don't think tomorrow is going to be any different whatsoever. And I'm excited to see what they do. And Coach Mack's going to have them ready to play, right? Like, the other night they lost to Oregon State, and Twitter was Coach Matt can't win in Omaha. We get to Omaha every year and do this. And here's the thing: when you get to Omaha, you're playing the 8 seed in the entire bracket. Like, this is one of the top 8 teams in the country. Like, yes, you may lose the baseball game. Like, they're one of the best teams in the country. Like, they have to lace them up and throw strikes and hit the ball too. It's just part of playing the game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I saw some of that stuff out there, and again, if you're tweeting that, I mean, just like first off, I mean, it's your page. Do whatever you want with it. It's your own page. But I mean, if you want to just if you're tweeting stuff like that out, just I mean, just you're all you're doing is letting people know you have no clue what you're talking about. How many 0-2 does Louisville have in Omaha? Is it one?
I think one,
I mean, they
I
finished third
believe.
in the country the last time they were there. What are you talking about? Like they go there and they can't. What are we talking about? They show up there and can't. They got third in the whole country the last time they were there. I mean, for a fan base that like, and this is. Look, man, I'm about to jump on. I'm about to jump up on it again here for a minute, but like and I'm talking about my soapbox, but like for a fan base that like embraces really the idea that they're like a basketball school. When was the last time they were good at basketball? As good as the baseball team has been over the last decade. When? You can't name me a time. And don't count this last year because I mean, congrats on your 18 wins in that ACC. It doesn't. Who cares? That doesn't matter. When you played anyone who was good, they weren't good enough. That's what I'm talking about. And yet everyone gets, and this is the point I'm trying to make. And yet in a season like that, and I'm not saying they were a bad basketball team. That's not what I'm trying to say. They were a good team, but they were an average basketball team. And yet everybody just was all in, threw all their chips behind these dudes, and we're back. We're back. I mean, all the Pat Kelsey glasses. Everyone's got their Kelsey glasses as their avatars, and Cardbirds Duncan as all their things. Flame out in the first round because they're not good enough yet. And I'm not saying that they're not gonna be. They are gonna be. Pat Kelsey's the dude. They will. I'm not sure if he's gonna win a national title because that's very hard to do. But like, they're gonna be in contention with Pat Kelsey at the helm. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is everyone jumps behind the basketball team and the football team that are a little above average. They're good teams, but they're not contenders. And yet you have this baseball team sitting here that's a legitimate contender, and you guys just you look for the negative things. Why? What kind of I can't understand it. Number one, these kids deserve better from you as fans. Fans, by the way, in quotation marks. Because you drive out here to Omaha to watch games when they're good, that doesn't make you a fan. It makes you a fair weather fan, and literally fair weather actually, because the weather's good. Where was this team deserves people to be behind them game in and game out. And I'm telling you, I said it the last time we did this podcast. I'm going to say it again. This is not the end. However, they may win the national title. This isn't it. Wait till you see next year's squad. And we're losing dudes off this team. Klein, Forbes, Bivin, Monroe. There's dudes. There's going to be transfer. There's going to be all kinds of stuff. Wait till you see next year's squad too. They're going to be so good. The hype in the preseason next year is going to be through the roof. All of you who are all in on this team right now, be there for these boys next February when Michigan State rolls into town Valentine's Day weekend. Get behind these dudes. Head back to Arlington next year. These kids deserve it. You're willing to do it for the basketball and the football. Why not these kids? It's a better program. It's not even a discussion. I'll hear none of it. I love Kelsey. I love Brom. These guys are great coaches and they have good programs, but they're not Dan McDonnell and they're not this baseball program. Period. Okay, I'll jump back off.
No, I think we talked about this before we hit record tonight and hopped on this live, and we talked about a little bit on our episode, I believe last week, or maybe one of the episodes before, when we talked about, fans wanting to expand Jim Patterson Stadium, and it needed to be bigger, and it needs this, and it needs that. It's not going to get this, and it's not going to get that until fans show up. When we show up 3 games a year in the super regional, or a handful of games if we host a regional, you can't justify that. Like, this team deserves fans to show up in a February game. They deserve fans to show up in March, April, May, and it's not happening. We love you love the support. Obviously, I told you about this before we hopped on too. Dan Skirka, head coach at Murray State, he talked today after the game, and he was in tears. Talking about just the run that they've been on, and thanking the fans for spending thousands of dollars to follow his team out to Omaha and support them out there, and the send-offs at the hotel and all the money they spent on hotels and food. Just it goes on and on and on. But they couldn't get 100 people to come to their games at home, but they had a couple thousand fans in Omaha. And it's the same frustration that I think you're hearing from Terry right now. It's like, why can't we support these guys when they're literally in our backyard? Like, we've got a Final Six team in college baseball that plays in our city. We could watch them whenever we wanted to, most of the time for free. Okay, most of the time you don't pay anything to walk in the stadium, and it's just not happening. And another thing that's frustrating to me, we looked the other night at season tickets because we're thinking about moving where we are in the stadium. Just because my son, we need handicap seating. We try to find somewhere else for us to sit, and I was shocked at the number of tickets that are not available at Jim Patterson Stadium. So somebody's buying them. They're just not going to the games because there weren't many tickets available for us to purchase to move our seats. And I love our seats. We're the 4 seats right behind home plate, right up against the press box. Like, we can lean up and almost give Sean Moth a high five. Oh, yeah. That's where we are. We got the padded, nice cushion seats, but we just need to move for him. But
you got the big bucks back there, huh? With the big donors.
But we love the seats; they're great. You can, it's a good. There's not a bad view in the ballpark. You know that. I mean, it's anywhere you sit in there's a good place. But I was shocked that there just aren't many tickets available. So that being said, if you're buying those tickets, go to the games. Like, we've got a damn good baseball team right here that deserves our support, and we're not filling the stadium up. And I think Josh Hurd would love to have to make a decision to expand that stadium, but right now that decision really isn't under consideration because we're not forcing him to make that decision.
And the one thing that I always think about when I talk about, like, the football and stuff, and again, I'm not saying don't support those things. That's not in any way, shape, or form what I'm saying. And I'm not saying that those aren't good programs. They're good programs, but they aren't this program. The only program on campus that is this program is the volleyball team. Period. And people show up in droves to, believe me. My wife loves that volleyball program. You practically can't get into the L&N Center. I mean, because it's basically too small for them. I mean, just in terms of meeting demand. But I mean, anytime they play away from there, we go. I mean, anything that's been at the Yum Center or over at the Expo Center, we go to all that stuff. But I just keep coming back to, with football, people are willing to go. And again, I love football. Love it. I grew up just outside of Ann Arbor. I mean, you think I don't love college football? I mean, it's religion. But, like, you'll go in November and sit there in the cruddy weather and watch them play some dumpy Duke team or who else is terrible in the ACC besides all of them?
Boston College.
Yeah, Boston College, Cal, some trash team, but you won't come out and watch the you won't sit there for 3 hours and watch a top 25 team in the country on a Saturday afternoon when the sun's finally coming out in March, February. I don't know, man. It doesn't make any sense to me. I've never got it, and it drives me out. And like you said, half the games are free. You don't have to pay $1. You don't have to pay a single dollar for over half the games. There's only 17 home games you have to pay for. And we talked about the ticket prices. You can get berm seats. A berm season ticket is $62 for the whole season. That's stealing.
That's it. Yeah.
$62. I don't know. I just want. I know that I'm probably just speaking to a wall, but it just doesn't make any sense to me that this program doesn't get the support. And I want to do everything I can. I will continue to do every single thing I can to just like campaign for this program, campaign for these kids, campaign for this coaching staff, because they deserve it, man. And if you don't think they do, look at where they are. I mean, the proof is in the pudding, isn't that what they say?
Well, Terry, we
I
could
think my
probably
great
talk about
grandma
this.
said that. I'm sorry I said that. I shouldn't have said that.
Well, no, and we could talk about this all night long. Looks like we're almost 11:40. We've got about 915 people in here, so appreciate everybody listening to Terry and I rant and talk about college baseball and everything that's going on with the Cards as we kind of roll through Omaha. So just kind of refresh, and we'll end this thing up. Looks like tomorrow the game will start at 11 a.m. They've got about 6 innings to play, if I believe correctly, and then Louisville will start 1 hour after that game is over. So we'll be back at some point to talk about how we fare against Oregon State. Hopefully it's a W and we keep this thing rolling against Coastal Carolina, who I would love to play. Love their team. I hate to play Coastal Carolina because that's a damn good baseball team, but I think it'd be a fun matchup, and I think Louisville's battle tested, so curious to see how they match up against them. So, Terry, like I said, you're out there in Omaha, you're doing the thing, you're covering the team more than anybody else, posting all the videos and letting everybody know what Coach McDonald, the coaches or players are saying after the game. So I kind of plug yourself so everybody can know where to find you after the games through this week and beyond, really, so they can kind of catch up to what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, just super appreciative. I continue to gain followers and things as the run goes. So just really appreciative of anybody that follows and continues to pay attention. I know that, again, it isn't football, it isn't basketball. I do understand that. So I know that, it's never going to be those things, but I do really appreciate anybody that follows along. You can find me on X, Twitter, whatever you choose to call it, at InsideVilleBSB, VILLEBSB. Anything, I try not to blow your timeline up too much. It's just every half inning I try to kind of run it down, and I always tag players and things so their families can find things easy. As far as the after game stuff, anything, home and road, I haven't missed one in over 3 years. So every appreciative of the coaches and the players for always being gracious with their time with me. And obviously it's a little different here. We're not allowed to video in the press room, so I do go in there to ask questions, but I just am able to download the file and then post it for everyone that still gets to see those things. I know that the locker rooms have been available. If people want that content, please let me know. I have not been going in the locker room after games. That's kind of like, I don't know, just as a former athlete, that's kind of sacred to me. Like, I don't want to, especially after the loss, I didn't want to just go and like shove my phone in players' faces. So, I think, again, it's just like a relationship thing with me. Like, I just don't want to, that's just not kind of how I want to do it. So, but yeah, Inside Louisville Baseball on YouTube, if you'd like to subscribe and like things, that's always appreciated. But yeah, I mean, it's not just this; it's the high school stuff. I've missed a lot. I missed a lot of high school baseball. I'm thankful to do it, by the way. Thankful to miss all the high school baseball
Yeah.
the last couple weeks, but um, I was planning on going to Indy this week to see the MPL. That's not happening. So I try to run down all the recruits as well and do all that stuff. So, but again, super appreciative of everybody that follows. Appreciate you, Matt, and the guys that at the state of Louisville for just allowing me to be on here and have this platform and hopefully just give you guys a little bit of behind the scenes look at the program.
No, it's been great, and I think the common denominator of Louisville going to Omaha may be Terry joining us on Third and Central podcast because the past couple of years we haven't had that fortune. So maybe you're exactly what we needed over here to kind of go on a little run. But you can obviously find us on Twitter at Third Central Pod. If you are out there listening to us, we appreciate you. It's almost 11:45 tonight. So you all spend a lot of time with us this evening. It looks like we've got almost 930 people in here. So just really appreciate everybody. This team, I think Terry and I can speak for him when I say this. Our biggest goal is just to reach as many fans as we possibly can because these players deserve it. They put in a lot of work, and I think if we can reach more fans and just kind of give more insight to the program, what's going on, we have accomplished our goal because ultimately that's all we want to do is just increase the reach of Louisville baseball.
Yeah, I just completely agree. I just didn't know if anybody had any last questions or not before we jet out of here.
No, we didn't have anything. I was just went over to see. Somebody said we're 3 wins away from getting to the national title game, which is super exciting. And it's I hadn't really thought about it that way. My mindset is always just kind of next game, next game, next game. But yeah, when you put it like that, like that's pretty cool.
Well, I will say, today at practice, so they wore their yellow shirts, the Tour de Defense
Yeah.
shirts today at
Yep.
practice, and they wear those ahead of weekend series. And so Coach Mack was positioning this as a 3-game weekend series right now. So that's the
Yeah.
reason that they wore the yellow shirts today, and they were approaching it as that because that's what it's going to take to get to where they want to go. So that's the way they approached it today, just like that. So whoever said that, spot on, man. That's exactly
Yeah.
how Coach Mack was thinking of it. And I mean, yeah, you got to win 3. I mean, and it all obviously it starts with 1, and I think that's a positive that like let's throw the kitchen sink at it because you got to win 1 to get to the next
Yeah.
one. So I think they're in a that's not necessarily a bad spot to be in. Like
Yeah.
when you might not get your best when you'd have tomorrow anyway. So I think we're gonna see the boys' best tomorrow.
Yeah, and I think that's the most exciting thing to me is like we're one of the last 6 teams standing, and tomorrow you're going to see everyone's best. Like it because we can't play Coastal if we don't beat Oregon State. So tomorrow, I think all hands are going to be on deck except a couple that we mentioned. But outside of that, I think Coach Mack is going to coach his ass off, and you're going to see him hopefully press all the right buttons to get us into the game or the series against Coastal and push this thing into the championship. But I see a couple pillows over your shoulder, Terry, and I'm sure they're probably calling your name because I would imagine you're pretty exhausted after the past couple days that you've had.
I made my bed just because I knew that might be on there. So I made sure that it was made up. I kind of organized my backpacks back behind me over here. So I kind of tried to make sure that it was cleaned up just a little bit so that just in case you could see, like in the one time when we had Milo over my shoulder at the
Yeah.
thing. So no animals here this time. Although if we do make it to the championship series, there is a potential that we could see some animals roll in. Some of my animals might roll into Omaha here to join the festivities.
Hey, we're okay with that, and you may have more animals at your house than Louisville Zoo does. By the time they get done with this thing, they keep getting rid of the elephants. They lost a leopard the other day, so by the time this thing's over with, you may have more animals at your house than they've got. But
I don't.
anyways,
tell my wife that she'll be out there trying to get them.
Well, we'll be back after. We'll have to chat and kind of see what this thing looks like because the next 3 days are going to be game after game after game. But we'll definitely be back at some point in time to talk about how the next couple days go and beyond because we're going to continue this thing into the summer. So hopefully we get a big W tomorrow and we'll be chatting about a Coastal Carolina in the days coming ahead. But in the words of Sean Moth, we will see you at the ballpark.